Hi, my name is Ann McElhinney.
I'm Phelim McAleer.
And welcome to the Ann Phelim Scoop. By the way, we're married, by the way. Just mention that. So it is day 280 of the 14-day, 2-week fortnight, if you will. Flatten the curve lockdown.
Or as you've written there, forthright. 2-week forthright.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, it was going to be a 14-day, 2-week flatten the curve lockdown. We are now at 9.5 months.
And that's all you need to know about temporary government programs.
But this is the Christmas scoop.
So we're going to try.
So it's going to be nice. It's going to be
nice. We're going to try to be cheerful, and we're going to try to think of good things that happened in 2020. I know it's challenging, but you've come to the right place. We're going to be cheerful, and lots of good things did happen, by the way.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There were things. No, and it's not that difficult. And so we are going to navigate our way back through 2020 by highlighting highlights.
Yes,
and nice things.
And this is our last scoop of 2020.
Yeah, to say that it's the last scoop. The next scoop will be on the 6th of January, Little Christmas, the Epiphany, the same day that the trees are taken down. But we're not even thinking about that now because our tree looks very well, actually. It does. Unfortunately, you can't see it in this shot, but it does look very well.
Maybe we'll take a picture of it.
I think we'll take a picture of it because what happened was, I'm kind of jumping ahead of the game, but we did go to the White House. We did see the fabulous decorations there. Put the pressure on Phelim a bit there, and he actually did well. All right, Phelim, what's happening in today's scoop, in today's special Christmas scoop?
Well, we're going to, as I say, we're going to look back at the highlights of the year, highlights for the Ann Phelim Scoop. We made mince pies for people at the weekend. And they're so good that honestly, and I know because we had some confusion last week. Clay, I'm looking at you, thought that we hadn't done the mince pies before in the show, but it turns out he had to admit that we had. But you know what? We decided. In Clay's defence, Clay said the recipe was not on the website.
No, I think the recipe is on the website.
He wasn't saying we hadn't done it before. He said you had not posted
the recipe. But anyway, we're not sure that there was ever a video of making the mince pies, so we have a bit of a video of making the mince pies later on.
And I think this year's mince pies are better than last year's.
It's unbelievable how good they are. I don't know why people don't eat mince pies all year. I have no idea.
You know, this is a teaser.
Go on ahead. Yeah, we're not meant to talk about the mince pies right now.
Yes.
And we have some advice about some things that you could listen to or watch during the holiday season, as they say, the Christmas season. I hate when people say the holiday season. Sorry, take that back. The Christmas season.
Yes.
And later,
I was at the doctor this morning. She wished me happy holidays, and I said, "Have a good Christmas." And she goes, "Oh, Merry Christmas."
Oh yeah. Oh, she was being all kind of politically correct.
Yeah, well, she's over at UCLA, of course.
And Phelim, by the way, doesn't have anything wrong with him. He just has a problem with his ankles. Actually, not his ankle. What is it? Just wrong with you again?
Actually, technically, I think it is my ankle. It's my ligament.
Phew, I'm the wife that cares.
Yes.
I know all this stuff.
You thought I was going to a different doctor.
I did, yeah. So
Magda knew what doctor I was going to, and you didn't.
We won't even go there.
Yes.
And we will be joined later. I'll be joined later, by the way, in an interview. Phelim was at the doctor, so he wasn't able to join us with this interview with a man who was featured in a news story that we did a couple of weeks ago. And then and kind of cool actually, because he's in Vancouver in Canada. He was featured in a news story that we did. And then he gets in touch and says, "I'm a huge fan of the show. I can't believe you mentioned me and I'd love to come on the show and tell you more about it." So we'll be talking to Mark Emerson Donnelly later on.
And he's going to give us a special Christmas gift. He's a singer.
And he'll be the first singer we've ever had to sing on the podcast, and we're going to have a beautiful Christmas carol from him.
And we're going to have shout outs for all the people who made our ObamaGate movie possible. That also allows Anne and I to mispronounce your name of not only of your hometown, but of you yourself. Possibly your state as well.
That's right. Or not even know where you're from because we can't work out the abbreviation. Yes. So there's all of that to look forward to. So we also are launching a massive crowdfunding campaign in the new year.
Yes.
And you are going to love this This is as big, by the way, this next project of ours. If you know our work, this is as big as Gosnell. Yeah. We are going to expose the Hunter Biden and the Biden family crime syndicate. That's going to be our massive project.
And it's going to be wonderful. The media and big tech are working overtime to cover it up, but we're going to expose it for all the world to see. So if you're familiar with our work, this is going to be our biggest campaign really since Gosnell.
Absolutely, and because it's so big and so exciting, we've actually luckily managed to get a donor who wants to give us $25,000, a matching grant. So basically, if you give us $50, if you give us $25, that money will be
$100,
doubled. If you give us $100, it'll automatically become $200. If you give us $1,000, it'll become $2,000, and on and on. We are really, really lucky that this donor has stepped forward. So this is really important.
It's a
but
once
the 25,
in a year.
it's a once in a year. This has to happen before the end of the year to get the matching of the 25,000. So please go to Unreported Story Society /donate, or just unreportedstorysociety.com. Go to our website and donate as much as you can.
This is going to put our crowdfunding off to the best start possible. It's going to be a massive project, huge. It's going to take a lot of work, and we're going to need your help. So you can, as we say, you can donate at the unreportedstorysociety.com or Unreported Story Society
/donate.
Forward. I wonder what happens if you do /donate.
No, /donate. And really, this is, as Phelim said, this is as big, if not bigger, than the Gosnell project. So that'll give you an idea of what we're planning to do. So please give what you can and let us take advantage of this amazing, generous donation that we've just received.
And don't forget, all donations are tax deductible.
Correct. And now we go to our interview with Mark Emerson Donnelly.
Yes.
And Mark, became a massive story worldwide. He's a singer who sang "O Canada," the national anthem, the Canadian national anthem, for 2 decades. For almost 20 years, for the Vancouver Canucks. Am I saying that wrong?
No, I think you're saying
Canucks. I think he pronounces it differently. And he was asked to sing at an event, at a freedom event, as he described it, at a freedom event,
Freedom Christmas
rally, and he was sacked. But he
got and the Freedom Rally was sort of stop the lockdown, kind of
all that kind of thing. And basically, we talked about him on the Daily Virus a few weeks ago, and then he got in touch with us.
I'm actually a big fan of yours. I love all your stuff.
So let's have a listen. Let's have a listen to that now.
Yeah.
So now we are very, very happy to be joined by Mark Donnelly. And this is a kind of a curious story because Mark Donnelly made the news around the world. He was the anthem singer for the Canucks, the Vancouver Canucks. And he had that job for 19 years. And he got sacked because he was going to go to an anti-mask rally and he was planning to sing "O Canada" there. And then, so we reported this as a news item, and then we get a message from Mark Donnelly, who actually is a listener to the podcast. And he said, look, I'd be really happy to come on the show and tell you more details. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Ed. I'm very happy to be here. Well, actually, here is in my studio in my home, but virtually with you.
Yes, and you're in Vancouver?
I'm in a place called White Rock.
Okay.
So we're only about 5 minutes from the border.
Okay. So tell us what happened, Mark.
Some of my fellow Catholics had organized a rosary pilgrimage to our cathedral because we're not allowed to have mass now. So we decided to go at noon on Sunday the 22nd, I think it was.
November?
Of November. Mm-hmm. So our masses had been shut down in the spring, and then they were opened up in the summer to limited attendance, and then they were shut down again. So then we went to this, not an anti-mask rally, but a freedom rally.
Okay, sorry.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
This is what the Globe and Mail reported. So I excuse me, and of course they've decided to call it an anti-mask rally.
I'll tell you, if you want a better take on the story, go to the Toronto Sun. That particular rally was not, to my mind, not stellar. And so, and I was standing right next to a surgeon, and he said, well, this isn't that great. In fact, he said of one of the speakers, he leaned over to me and he says, well, I hope they don't have him back again. Anyway, so they found out who I was, and actually found out. I gave them my name because I thought, oh, this might be something worth singing for. And then when I saw that first rally, I thought, oh, probably good thing I didn't sing. Well, anyway, later in the week, they called me and said, yeah, we'd really like you to sing. And I said, well, you know what? You got to tighten up your act a bit. Mm-hmm. And so They were asking me, and then there were a couple of people who I quite respected that were speaking at their Christmas rally. So I thought, okay, well, I respect them. I know that they fight for the truth. They fight for their fellow Canadian citizens. So I'm going to simply go and sing the national anthem. And that was it, because I'm a singer. That's what I do.
Yes.
You know, if they called up a vendor, the vendor would have, you know, if he was a food vendor, he'd supply food.
Sure.
You wouldn't expect him to go up and sing the anthem. Someone from one of the organizers posted on Facebook saying, "Oh, Mark Donnelly's coming to sing the anthem for us. We're really excited." So that was fine. I was in my backyard taking down an old shed with my son Joseph, and I get this message on my phone from the local newspaper, the Vancouver Sun, saying, "Are you singing at this rally?" So I said, yes, I sing for all Canadians. I sing for freedom of speech. And I said, it'd be nice to see you at the rally. And that was it. And so then he publishes in the Vancouver Sun that I'm singing at this anti-mask rally. So then the owner of the Vancouver Canucks tweets, it says, Canuck anthem singer singing at anti-mask rally. And the owner tweets out, hashtag Vancouver Sun, former anthem singer of the Vancouver Canucks. So I guess that's how I got fired. I'm not on Twitter, so I didn't see it. A screenshot had to be taken and it was sent to me. And as of now, unless I missed an email or a call, which is quite possible, I've not been contacted by them, by the Canucks, to say that they no longer require my services. Now, I've been in the music business and theater for a long, long time, and of course, I follow politics as a responsible citizen. And you know the sort of thing, you do something or you plan to do something that a client is concerned that it might have a negative impact on their business. Mm-hmm. So they call you up and say, "Hey, are you going to do this?" You say yes. They say, "Well, we'd like you to reconsider." And then you say either yes or no. Yes. And then if you say yes, they say, "Well, I think we're going to have to part company," especially after 20 years, Yeah, exactly. So you'd say, okay, well, and then they issue a press release saying that, after 20 years of
faithful service.
You can just use boilerplate, right?
Yes.
And we've decided to part ways, and we thank Mr. Donnelly for all his, whatever I've done. And then that would be it, and it'd be a non-story. But I can't say who this is, but a sports writer did email me privately and said that his impression was that the owner was simply virtue signaling.
Yeah. Yeah.
To show that.
So we're now this is now, we're in Christmas week now, and you still haven't heard from anyone. Officially, so you were fired basically, in a newspaper or on a tweet, actually in a tweet, even more insulting. And as you say, after 20 years, they didn't bother to lift a phone to speak to you. I mean, they were happy with you for 20 years. Exactly as you say, why wouldn't they have gotten in touch with you prior to the rally and said, if you do this, we're going to have a problem, at least give you even a choice. And I thought Canada believed in free speech, but maybe, not so much actually.
Well, here's a further background. 8 years ago, I sang at a pro-life rally. And there were people calling for me to be fired then. And a curious thing happened. One of the players David Booth, 2 weeks before that, had published or sent out a picture on Twitter, I believe it was, or might have been Facebook, of him killing a bear with a crossbow. And so, you know, we like our animals up here in BC. And so people took offense to that, and they asked the Canucks to reprimand him. And they said, well, what our employees and players do when on their own time, as long as it's legal, that's fine.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later, I sang at this rally. Well, they didn't change their tune. They said the same thing. I was doing something that was certainly
legal.
within my perfectly legal and within my rights as a Canadian citizen. So when I was going to sing at the Freedom Rally, especially a Christmas rally, where not only was I singing the anthem, but I was singing "O Holy Night." So for me, I thought I was just doing a patriotic thing and a Christmas thing.
It's unbelievable.
Because here's the thing that I saw. I saw that they were, there was a certain part of our population that it was being bullied.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, I listened to the Daily Virus, daily. And, and you know, that I love, well, I don't love hearing what you bring up. I wish you didn't have to, but nonetheless, it's a way to stay informed. In fact, that's how we got Alex Berenson's book. I heard you talk about them on your on the Daily Virus, but there's no discussion. There's no true argument in the philosophical sense.
Yes.
You know, I have a liberal arts degree. I've studied Aristotle, St. Thomas, you know, the Marxist dialectic. I'll tell you, Marx really decided to turn society upside down. And he was using Hegel as a means of doing that. His thesis, antithesis, synthesis thing. That's what all this critical race theory and critical theory in general is all about. It's taking what is being, destroying it, and then coming up with something new. Well, that's what the communists do all the time, and that's what is happening through this this coronavirus protocol.
Well, we're really sorry about what's happened to you, and I mean, you know, this kind of cancel culture is everywhere now, and it's just horrible. But we don't want your appearance on our show to be all negative, because today is our very special Christmas podcast, and we're desperately trying to keep things as light as possible. And it's not an easy year to do that. So our plan today is to try and do nice things. So I want to move really quickly along and ask you to share we ask all our guests to share a piece of art that's really important to them, and to also give us a recipe that they're famous for in their house. And I happen to know that you're a father of 9. Am I right in saying that?
You are correct.
So I think that probably means that you cook occasionally, or maybe more than occasionally.
No, occasionally. My wife, Catherine, is marvelous. She's the real anchor for the household, and now also keeping everyone together. 3 of our sons live down in California.
Oh dear.
2 of them got married during this protocol. The first, our eldest son, Sean, we weren't able to go to his wedding.
Oh, dear.
And then Francis, when Francis was getting married, he was actually supposed to get married next month. But when we saw the way things were going, we called him up and said, you know what, you better just get married as soon as you can.
Oh, gosh.
And before the November election.
Oh, dear.
So they arranged things. They got married October 3rd, and we were able to go to the wedding in Virginia.
Oh, good. So, and would you have everyone at home for Christmas?
Oh, no, we can't, just can't do that. We're on a kind of, we're kind of on a soft lockdown.
Yes.
So are we.
So are we.
You know how they say it, that, you know, there are rules that you can't break, and then there are suggestions.
Yes. Oh no, we covered that again today actually on the other.
Yeah.
So what is your recipe then? Is there a recipe that you have that you're famous for in your house?
Well, I think so, and I'm also famous for it with our assistant pastor at our church, and that is chorizo.
Oh,
Mexican sausage.
I know chorizo. I love it. Go on.
Now the thing is,
you make chorizo.
Yeah, well, you don't live in Canada.
No.
Do you know how hard it is to find chorizo up here?
All right.
So I finally decided, and every time I watched Midnight Run, where have you seen that movie?
I love that movie. I think we know the screenwriter. I think George Gallo wrote that script.
Oh, well, it's a fabulous ensemble movie. I love ensemble movies.
Well, George Gallo wrote that script, and he is a friend of ours.
Well, tell him that our whole family is a fan of his.
Okay.
So anyway, the scene when they show up, I think it's in El Paso. No, not El Paso. It's a small town where they go into the diner and they only have like 65 cents or something like that. And the waitress says today's special is chorizo and eggs.
Okay, and our breakfast special today is chorizo and eggs.
Chorizo and eggs?
Chorizo and eggs.
Yes. What is that?
It's a Mexican sausage mixed in with scrambled eggs, and it comes with hash browns and toast.
I won't be having that, thank you.
And so every time we watched that, I thought, you know what? I'd really like some chorizo and eggs. So I looked for it in the store. You can't really find it. So I decided to make my own chorizo and eggs. And I guess I started that about, maybe a year and a half ago, perhaps 2 years ago.
Right.
And now our assistant pastor, who's Filipino, actually loves chorizo and eggs. So now I have to make enough chorizo and eggs so that I can give him a pound or two when I make it. So anyway,
so make chorizo. All right, you got the recipe there.
I got the recipe here. Okay, now this is for 3 pounds of pork, but what I would suggest is, if you can do it, triple the recipe.
Wow.
Because then you can put it in 1 pound freezer bags.
Yeah, and keep it.
And then you throw it in the freezer and you just pull it out. And if you don't want to have it with eggs, it's really good without eggs too.
Yeah.
So anyway, here we go. So there's 9 dried chili peppers. Now you can use the chili flakes,
yes,
but it's better with the actual peppers.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So, and then you toast them in a frying pan. No oil, just toast them. Mm-hmm. 1 medium of onion. I've had to drop the onions because I've developed an allergy to onions, so we leave the onion out.
Okay.
5 cloves of garlic, 1.5 tablespoons of dried oregano, 1.5 tablespoons of ground cumin, 1 tablespoon of dried coriander, a tablespoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of lime juice, and then the 3 pounds of pork. And again, if you triple that, you triple everything. And so what you do is you toast the peppers, put them in a bowl with some hot water from the kettle. You let them soak for about 10 minutes. Put the water aside, and then you take all the dry ingredients and you do them up in a magic bullet or something like that. And then you just mix it all together and then add the amount of water that you need you add the water to the magic bullet so you have just enough to make a paste. Mm-hmm. And then you mix the paste with the pork. Now, don't use lean pork. You got to use the medium pork.
Yes.
Okay. If you only can get lean pork, then save your bacon fat. And then you can also give yourselves a bit of a smoky chipotle taste to your chorizo. And then you can have it, like I said, with eggs. You can go online and see all the different chefs on how they make the kind of the chorizo donut, and they put the egg inside. So it's kind of like a chicken and nest type thing. And then you can fold it over, and make it into a burrito. It's a great breakfast burrito, or anytime.
Fabulous.
That's it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And then what piece of art is important to you that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Okay, well, of course, I'm just going to do two. One, and people can go to my my website, go to my YouTube channel, vocalart.ca, and they can see there's a video from motet to mass, and that's talks about the kind of one of the biggest works that I've ever written. And that was back in 2012. And it's based on this beautiful motet by Palestrina called Sicut Cervus.
Oh,
and so they can go there to look at that. But the work of art, I don't know if you can see it here.
Okay, show.
And that is Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Oh, yes.
And that's the miraculous image that appeared to Juan Diego back in the 16th century, where he was on his way to get medicine for his uncle, and Our Lady appeared to him, and she wanted a church built there. And so what happened was the bishop wanted proof, and so Our Lady said, "Well, here's your proof." And this was in December, and there were these beautiful roses. So he picked the roses and held them in his tilma, and then went to see the bishop. And when he dropped his tilma, this image was on his tilma. And so, for those people out there who are skeptical, they still can't figure out what the pigments are on that. The rough cloth should have disintegrated by now, but it's still intact.
Where is it?
This is in Mexico City now, where it is. And my one chance to go see it, I got sick that day and I wasn't able. So I've never actually seen it, but I made that, I framed that image of Our Lady of Guadalupe for my mother about 35 years ago.
And I'm actually glad you mentioned your mother, because the piece of music that is available on YouTube, the memoriam to your mother that you composed and had a choir sing, is absolutely stunning. And we'll put in the show notes, we'll put where people can find that. It's really, really gorgeous. What I can't compliment you enough on that piece of music. It's really very beautiful.
Thank you, Anne. I'll just tell you too, that four of my kids were singing on that recording.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my God, what a beautiful recording. And that makes it even more special. So what a beautiful way to remember your mother. It's really very, very special. And talking of music and talking of performance, because this is our special Christmas podcast, we would love to have a carol sung. And I know when you wrote to us, you even mentioned O Holy Night, which happens to be my favorite carol, because I think it's very sad today. You watch the news, you listen to the radio, and really there's no Jesus actually much being mentioned over Christmas. So we would love to hear you sing O Holy Night.
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. Now, I can't guarantee how good my voice will, or shape my voice will be in, because I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
As most performers, I do better at night, but I'll do my best.
Well, thank you so much.
And also, if people want to get the recording of it, there's they can go to iTunes, and there's a CD called Carol of the Bells. It's Mark Donnelly and the Donnelly family. We recorded that 11 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's my 3 eldest kids and myself singing Christmas stuff.
Oh, wonderful. Okay,
so,
we'll put a note to that as well.
So I'm going to, I have to get myself a pitch here. This is going to be a cappella.
Okay.
But on the CD, I'm singing it with harp. So there we go. You going to sing along, Ann?
We'll see.
Okay, here we go. We all set? Oh, holy night, The stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Saviour's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees, or hear the angel voices. O night divine, O night when Christ was born, O night divine, O night divine. Led by the light of faith serenely beaming, with glowing hearts by his cradle we stand. Led by the light of a star sweetly gleaming, here came the wise men from Orient land. The King of Kings lay thus in lowly manger, in all our trials born to be our friend. Fall on your knees, or hear the angel voices. O night divine, O night when Christ was born, O night divine, O night, O night divine.
Oh, God, that's perfect. That's really perfect, Mark. Thank you so much. And if that's how you sound in the morning, I mean, we need to call you some night because I can't imagine an improvement on that. That was really, really beautiful and a perfect way for us to close out this particular podcast. But we will talk to you again, Mark. This has been so nice, and we're so grateful that you got in touch with us. And it's almost like a kind of a Christmas miracle, actually, because, you know, we got your message, we had told your story, then we get this email from you, and you said you'd come on, and you mentioned, you know, obviously, you know, the whole story is about the fact that you're a singer, and you've literally brought tears to my eyes. That was so beautiful, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So happy Christmas to you and yours, and we look forward, hopefully, for a better 2021.
Yes, well, and a very, very merry and blessed Christmas to you and Phelim and Magda. You talk about Magda a lot.
Yes.
And I just love your show, and I pray for you that you keep doing your great work. I first heard you speak on the interview you had on the Rush Limbaugh show.
Oh, thank you.
And I have dyslexia, so I don't read that well, but I do a lot of audiobooks. So I got Gosnell on the audiobook, and then watched the movie. And I just really appreciate the work you're doing. So God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mark. We really appreciate that. Well, God bless, and thank you so much. Bye. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We wanted to have a carol, and we certainly got a carol, and we're so grateful, very, very grateful to Mark Donnelly. And I would remind people to look at the show notes, because we're going to give you all of those links that Mark mentioned. And I would also add in there the link to the memoriam to his mother, which is Memento Verbi Tui, by Mark Emerson, in memoriam of Marie Donnelly, 1926 to 2020. She died this year, and it's a very beautiful piece. And as he explained in the interview, three of his children, I should say, sang on that, and he has a family of 9. But this is the Christmas end of year podcast, and we want to look back at 2020, and we want to look back at the highlights. But we should start by looking, literally go back to January. So January 2020, now there was a bit of an inkling, I think, of a pandemic, right? Not a pandemic, there was a bit of a chat about a virus, right? Yes. There was. However, we were in New York, by the way, what turned out to be the epicenter of the worst fatalities in the United States. That's where we were in all of January and into February, right, Phelim?
Yes.
We were there to cover the Harvey Weinstein, did I say it right?
Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein trial. And we went to court every day. We got the transcripts of the trial. We then edited those down to the most dramatic moments, sent that script over here to Los Angeles, where we had a bunch of extremely talented actors standing by to reenact every day the most dramatic moments of that trial. If anyone hasn't listened to it, now I'm going to warn everyone by saying it's not necessarily,
not
cheery. It's not cheery Christmas fare, but if it's X-rated, let's be very honest. Obviously, It's a rape trial. It's X-rated, but I think what we discovered at that trial about mob justice is something that we should all be attending to. You can listen and listen to that podcast, by the way. It's up there. I mean, it's been listened to by huge numbers of people, right, Phelim?
I think something like 300,000 people, 400,000.
And it's called Harvey Weinstein, the Harvey Weinstein Trial Unfiltered. The Harvey Weinstein Trial Unfiltered.
I haven't been tested yet, but I do believe that I have had the Wuhan flu. I mean, we walked through Chinatown
every day on the way to the court. We even found like this coffee shop in Chinatown run by these Chinese people who and I actually always meant to write like a review. They were so nice. Yes. It was such a great spot. I can't remember where it was now, but this is just to give you an idea of our potential exposure at the time.
Yes, and unlike Nancy Pelosi, we weren't doing it to show our diversity, right? We just liked the girl. We liked the girl, and I think one of the things that have got lost this year is that China is to blame for this virus. Either it constructed the virus, and if it didn't do that, it lied and lied and lied.
We know, and also we know at the very least of times, and we're trying to be positive today. But anyway, let's give abuse where we can when it's appropriate. We do know that the Chinese recognized that something really bad was happening in Hubei province, where Wuhan is. And so what they did was they closed off their own borders to that province in China. However, while they did that, they allowed flights to go to New York, to Milan, to London, to everywhere else. And they allowed the virus to spread. If they had been honest from the get-go and said, we think this is so serious, we're closing our borders, we're going to close international borders too, we would not be in the situation we're in now. So let's not forget that. But when Phelim and I were in New York, we stayed in an Airbnb, about the size of the table, I think, was the apartment. But it was over Ansell's Bakery, which was famous for the cronut. Which is a cross between a croissant and a donut. And by the way, I wouldn't change my travel arrangements to get a cronut.
You're lucky you didn't have to, because it was just right below her.
It was right below, but what was amazing
I could smell the bakery at 4:30 in the morning.
They had lovely other things, but the cronut itself, people queued around the block to get it. And Phelim was continuously amazed and bemused by the fact
I think you're being complimentary there.
No, you thought
I was not amused.
No, you were okay. You were jealous.
I was not bemused.
You were jealous.
I was angry. I was upset.
You were angry that it wasn't you.
Yeah, I didn't invite the cronut. It made me rethink my support of capitalism, that someone could be so successful.
They were so successful. Oh my God. Somebody had written an article about this cronut when it was invented, and basically it became a huge thing.
The next day, so there's been lines outside that bakery since 2013. 2018. Not any longer. I'm
Incredible.
sure.
So, by the way, wouldn't that just break your heart, by the way? Because they had a beautiful business, and it is actually a really beautiful business. Ann Phelim Bakery, really gorgeous, and the people were very nice there, and we had lots of food there and whatever. But just to remember, we were in New York then for about 6 weeks covering the Weinstein trial, and Phelim got sick and was sick for ages. I was so sick that I didn't go to court for a week because I couldn't stop coughing, right? So who knows? We'd love to think that we had the virus back then and that we're grand now.
Yeah.
But again, of course, the problem now with the virus is you don't know that you're immune because you just had it in the previous, even though a friend of ours thinks that she is. Anyway, after that, that's how our year started. And by the way, we would highly recommend you to listen to the Harvey Weinstein
You will learn.
podcast.
It will change your view of Harvey Weinstein. It will change your view, perhaps, of the Me Too movement.
Yes.
It'll make you think again. It's a very, very interesting story.
Yeah, and we got a lot of people.
It'll show you that there's it'll point out media malfeasance and mob justice, how it's never attractive. So then we went down to DC at the end of the trial, where we went to a large White House.
Well, no, you're jumping the gun here. The reason we went to the large White House was because what we went to Washington, D.C. for. So we went to Washington, D.C. because Phelim's play, FBI Lovebirds, was on the main stage in CPAC and got huge reviews.
That's
and people loved it. And then people hated it.
And it was reviewed in the Washington Examiner and reviewed in Business Insider. Fox did a lot on it. Washington Examiner, the Independent, the British Independent, did a story on it. Crowds roar. This is their review. Crowds roar as FBI Lovebirds undercover struck page play is performed at CPAC. This is the actual text messages of FBI Lovebirds, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, as read by Dean Cain and Christy Swanson.
Well, performed, really.
And performed. And it also includes their congressional testimony.
Yes.
So it's basically them kind of being part spy, part teenage lovers, part deep state. And it's actually very funny as well as being very serious. And the review I like best was by Molly Young Fast, who's the daughter of Erica Young, who wrote Fear of Flying.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's who she is. Oh, yeah. And by the way, the other thing I know about Molly Young Fast is she tweeted during the pandemic, you know, I can't remember the number, right? But it was something like, this is day 180 of being locked up in my apartment with my children. And I just thought, those children should be taken off her.
She's never left the apartment.
She's never left the apartment.
And
the children have not left the apartment
months.
for 6 months. Now, of course, you have to understand that she isn't leaving her apartment and her children aren't leaving her apartment, but she's forcing all kinds of other people to leave their apartments in order to provide food and laundry and all kinds of other things for her and her children. But I just thought, if ever there was a description of child abuse, that's a description of child abuse right there.
Okay, well, she was most unimpressed with FBI Lovebirds at CPAC.
Oh, she didn't like it, no,
and
Philip.
TV Superman and bootleg Buffy battled the
Bootleg Buffy, you know?
She actually played, Christy Swanson played Buffy
she was
the Vampire Slayer.
She was the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
So, sorry.
She's not a bootleg Buffy.
Sweetheart, you just can't get away with bootleg, although it does. It's good alliteration. So it's TV Superman and bootleg Buffy. Bootleg Buffy battle the deep state and lose. So then she says, the whole point of the play was to further humiliate Strzok and Page, but it actually humanizes them. And then she says, when the markets cratered and America stood on the brink of a pandemic, the president soothed himself at a little theatre and a private meeting with Dean Cain.
We're getting on to that.
She talked about how we said Trump loved the play, which he loved the idea of the play. Mm-hmm. And, she says she wasn't invited to the White House, but she was at CPAC and watched the play be performed. And she said, pledging allegiance to the Mango God King has become a plan.
The Mango God King.
But do you hear this? Has become a plan B for some washed-up Hollywood actors. Think Scott Baio and Jon Voight, like washed up.
Jon Voight was in one of the like massive hit TV shows.
Ray Donovan's
like super sexy,
but also washed up. How long does your career have to be before someone can say you're washed up? This
Oscar-winning,
he won an
Oscar-win-
Oscar in the 70s, in
Yeah.
the early 70s.
I don't know what's washed
And he
up
was
about
a
him.
national treasure. He's in everything. He was an Anaconda, national treasure.
Yeah.
He was, he's in everything. You watch a movie and
He is a national treasure.
and then he was in Ray Donovan. He just pops up all over the place. So,
And he's, by the way, and I think his role in Ray Donovan, I think it's like almost a breakout. It's a breakout success. It's an amazing role. He's wonderful.
I mean, he may not have been on the TV for a week, or a month, a few months, but to call him washed up, it's just ridiculous. And and then she goes, Dean Cain may have been that small screen Superman once, but after that he was the guy who played Scott Peterson in The Perfect Husband.
And he was brilliant in that.
And the Lacey Peterson story.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, the idea that playing Scott Peterson in that movie is a sign that you're washed up. More people have watched that movie and remember the Lacey Peterson story and from that movie.
Then watch Brokeback Mountain. I would say that, for example.
I watched all the Oscars.
I know, I like that. I think that's actually I would say now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I'd say that that's absolutely true. But that more people, because that Perfect Husband, the Lacey Peterson story, is fabulous, and Dean is brilliant in it. Also, scary good, actually.
Also, it's honestly, some of the movies nominated for Best Picture, I would say The Perfect Husband, the Lacey Peterson story. More people watched that than possibly all the movies, top 5 movies nominated for Best Oscar last year. Some of them have minuscule, that one, the Mexican one that won, the 4-hour one.
Yes.
Where it rains at the beginning for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we've seen it. It's not awful, but nobody watched it. I understand that.
Right?
Yeah, no, so, it's quite difficult to watch.
She talks about Christy Swanson, who wore a dress to the performance that looked like the dress Lisa Page wore to her hearing. Yes, that's right.
People do that kind of thing.
It's called costuming.
Yeah,
right.
May have been big screen Buffy's once, but she has been
in a lot of made-for-TV movies since. And I say to that,
what's wrong with that?
I say, aren't we in the golden age of television now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that where all the actors,
Yeah.
So, anyway. So she talks about Trump loving it, and then she says, because the play is supposed to mock In the Mean Struck and Page. And then she says, I interviewed Page in December, and since then we've become friends. So I hated the idea of watching my friend become mocked, right?
Oh, her
Be
friend.
mocked.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how she knows that the play is supposed to mock and demean these people. Does she know what's in my heart? How does she know that? She says, what was funny about hearing the messages read aloud is that most of them are pretty intelligent and even sweet. There were even moments of pathos, right? And she goes on and talks about that. The whole point of the play was to further humiliate Strzok and Page, but it actually humanized them.
Which you're delighted with, by the way. That's a compliment.
But she doesn't understand. It's not even a compliment. It's the intention.
Yes, you intended to humanize them.
I intended to humanize these deep state conspirators, these traitorous, seditious, arrogant people that they are. I wanted to humanize them because if you demonize people, then people don't accept them as real and don't see the danger as real. I wanted to show how people who believe themselves to be good and believe themselves to be honest can plot to undermine the election and the election campaign and the election, the democratically elected president of the United States. There's no point in doing these things if you don't humanize the people you're writing about, because people won't believe them then. So I searched their text messages, I searched their testimony, and for every morsel of information that would humanize them and make them human, not to humiliate them, but to show them as human, to show how people are capable of doing this and how human beings can do this. So you're right, Molly, you just don't understand art.
So that was CPAC, and because that was so successful and got so much attention in the media, we were invited to the White House by one Donald J. Trump. Thank you very much, sir. And we had a really, really great visit in the White House. I mean, as they say, only in America, the two, this boy from Tyrone and this girl from Donegal, to end up in the Oval Office with Dean Cain and Christy Swanson, just the four of us. And we had this wonderful, almost an hour with the president. It was kind of amazing. Yes. And of course, the people at that point, this is I can't remember the date, it was late February.
I think it was February 28th or 29th.
So people were beginning to talk a lot about the pandemic, about the virus and all of that. And there was all this thing about, or was it, I actually genuinely thought it would be called off and that the president would say, no, he didn't want potentially, infectious people to be arriving into the White House. But actually he was great and kept us there chatting away. It was really funny. Brought us into the room where Bill Clinton and herself,
Monica.
Liaised. Let us put it that way. It wasn't necessarily how it was described to us, but that's where we went, and we just had a very, very nice visit, and one of those kind of memories to cherish forever, basically.
45 minutes with the president,
and you can see some of the photographs we're showing you there of that. It was just really, really
wonderful.
Great.
It was wonderful.
So then we come back to Los Angeles, and March the 19th, the stay-at-home order in Los Angeles was declared, and Yvonne, our colleague Yvonne, came up with this brilliant idea. Thanks a million, Yvonne. We're so grateful to Yvonne, aren't we?
Yes.
Well, love you there, Yvonne. So she came up with this idea that we'd do a daily virus. We would do a podcast called The Daily Virus, and we'd do it, every day, basically, for the pandemic. And of course, we thought, you know what, Yvonne, that's a great idea.
We'll
do that.
2 or 3 weeks.
3 weeks, a month.
6
weeks.
3 weeks for the virus, and then we'll wrap up for a few
8 weeks, even 8 weeks.
No, well,
yeah.
No way I would do 8 weeks.
We're now 10 months later now, 9 3/4 months later, and we're still doing the Daily Virus. But we are taking a little break for the holidays or for the Christmas. But the Daily Virus actually has been, people have really liked it, and we've had a lot of really nice messages from people saying that they couldn't have got through the pandemic without us. Yeah. We've done things like, we've basically called it, what was it, Phelim? The Daily Virus is what?
The news, views, advice, and madness of the pandemic.
And Phelim says that every day with that particular accent, which really does not grow on you. It doesn't get better.
That's not true. We've had a listener, Jenny, actually say it back to me in that voice. A very good impersonation.
Thank you very much, Jenny. But the Daily Virus, anyway, bringing the truth and not the panic about the pandemic. And we've given people advice, for example, and the advice, I just think of one piece of advice which we got from Magda, who's not great in the kitchen, by the way, just to say, but she did share the piece of advice that I am cherishing ever since, which is that milk freezes, which is a very big thing to know, particularly if you're in a situation where shops are going to close or there's any kind of panic buying going on. So that was very, very helpful, because if you go to Costco, it's not possible to buy a small quantity of milk in Costco. So you buy a large quantity of milk in Costco and you can freeze it. Fabulous.
And what else did we do on the Scoop?
And we've had a year of Scoops as well, obviously. So we did
Scoop is our podcast that comes out on a Wednesday.
And it's filmed, so you get to see us. And we've had a year of Scoops.
That's right.
And we thought what we'd do today
just
would
to remind people, The Scoop is our podcast that comes out every Wednesday.
Yeah, and it's filmed.
And it's longer than the virus.
And you get to look at us. God help you.
And you can watch it on YouTube if you can stomach us in picture. Or you can listen to it on the podcast app.
Yes, but it is better to look at it on the YouTubes, because sometimes we have visuals.
Yes.
But anyway, what we thought we'd do today, because it's the end of year and it's because it's the Christmas season, is we'd look back at some of the kind of highlights of our Scoops, and we're going to start with a few clips. We had Sara Carter on the show. She was really delightful. What a lovely person. And I think we're going to be hearing a lot more from Sara next year when we're talking about Hunter Biden and the Biden family syndicate. So we're going to play this one clip here from when we had Sara on.
Just to give you a bit of a background for this clip, it was after the Mueller report came out, and they didn't find anything, but they put lots of people in prison for very often made up crimes or crimes that weren't crimes, but they decided were. And it was all an attempt to get them to flip on Trump, and they had there was nothing there. So obviously that plotting and that conspiring among the Mueller team would have led to some very interesting text messages and emails.
So something very interesting happened to the Mueller team's telephones.
Yes.
Their mobile phones.
It turns out 27 members of the Mueller team accidentally wiped their phones or lost their phones. So many of them woke up one morning and couldn't remember their passcode. And when you enter it, I think it's 10 or 20 times, it automatically wipes the phone because it thinks it's stolen. So let's hear Sara Carter and ourselves discuss that strange happening.
And of course it's very believable that 27 individual people could make the same mistake by turning, what did they put it on to airplane mode, and then they put their passcode in like 4 times or 10 times wrong until that wipes the phone. I mean, that's very understandable. It's happened to everyone, hasn't it? Yeah?
Right. We always do that. And especially someone like Andrew Weissman, who was, Robert Mueller's like pit bull, his right-hand man, the tough guy at the SDNY, the one that never forgets anything. He just happened to wake up one morning and had just a Biden moment. I can't remember my passcode. I'm going to put it in 20 times. Other people lost their phones. Other people happened to just enter it in the same. It was like there was some kind of a psychological attack on the Mueller team.
Yeah.
And they all at one moment randomly. Now, we all know that that's not true. We all know this is a lie, and that's what makes it so ridiculous. I'm glad you're pointing that out. And then, but what I think is even worse is that they expect us to buy that.
This is deeply corrupt, and this is deeply suspicious. And if it was a Republican investigation into a Democratic president, there would be a special prosecutor appointed to look into it would call PhoneGate, but it would largely unreported by the mainstream media.
And then we had the Michelle Obama episode. So Michelle Obama, as probably you know, launched a podcast this year. She and himself have a very nice sweetheart deal with Spotify. They have a very nice sweetheart deal with Netflix. But part of the Spotify deal, she decided she would do a series of podcasts, which we discovered, by the way, from looking at them. Most of them were recorded at the same time, so they weren't even bothered to be relevant. But we had a little bit of fun with Michelle's pronunciation of certain words. Yeah. Let's have a listen to that.
Or as I would call it, her pandering on certain words. Let's have a listen.
So when Michelle Obama says Latino, which is incredibly easy to say, can you say it, Phelim?
Latino.
It's incredibly easy to say. But when she says it, this is what it sounds like.
Latino.
Let's hear it again.
Latino.
And again.
Latino.
Let's hear it again.
Latino.
Oh, like, what is wrong with her? So what is that?
Because
what is wrong with her?
NPR do that, right?
Do they?
Yes, Latino.
So what is that about? So does that mean though? Does that mean?
No, it's them.
It's
the way it's pronounced in Spanish.
No, right? I get that. But so if that's the case, then do you, when you say
do they? I don't say that.
So does one then? Do they say Budapest? Do they say Paris instead of Paris?
Do they call Naples Napoli?
I mean, that's what I don't know. But I mean,
no, they don't. It's just
I'd like
pandering.
To know.
It's pandering. It's stupid.
I think it's insulting.
It's bad. It's bad grammar. It's bad English. You're speaking English.
I think if I was Latino, I think if I was Latino, I'd find it a little bit insulting. We thought that was kind of funny.
Yes.
Latino.
Latino.
I mean,
Latino.
Does this mean? Yeah. So she's been insulting Latinos for years then, because she always said Latino. It's, in fact, everyone's. I mean, it's just this is not pronunciation. This is not diversity. This is pandering. This is virtue signaling, and
anyway, it's kind of it's very funny. And then we had James O'Keefe on the show, and a fantastic interview with him actually, and he exposed. Well, this is an interesting story actually, and it's a pandemic story as well.
James is one of the greatest journalists working in America today.
And you know what he's not going to get, Phelim? He's never going to get a Peabody or whatever it is. Or a Pulitzer.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Peabody, by the way, are so busy at the moment handing back or getting their prizes back. The New York Times, you saw that the series, they did a podcast series, Caliphate, that was basically a hoax from beginning to end.
And they had to hand the prize had to be handed back. But what happened here?
So CBS did back at the beginning of the pandemic, CBS did a big report about testing, and they to show that there was overwhelming demand for tests and there was a massive pandemic in Michigan, and even though the figures didn't seem to back it up, they had people lined out the block for testing, and they showed a shot of it at the Cherry Hill Testing Center in Michigan. And it turned out, and James got a whistleblower to blow the whistle on it, turns out that the people lining up for the testing were actually employees of the Cherry Health facility, and it was a complete fake.
Yeah.
So they were using fake pictures and fake news, CBS were, to create a sense of panic among people.
Let's hear James talk about it now.
We are supposed to trust CBS News and the New York Times. We are told by these organs of media that we cannot ever question their motives. We can never question their sincerity. Democracy dies in darkness. The truth is more important than ever. An apple is an apple. A banana is a banana, and all this crap that they put out. We're supposed to trust them and never question them, but not for what you guys do and what Project Veritas does and other organizations do. We would never know that this broadcast was fake. We would never know that it's false. You don't have Brian Stelter at CNN. You don't have these journalists questioning their brothers and sisters in the cartel.
So, and we're, by the way, compliment. Thank you very much for those very nice words
Yes.
about us as well, James. Thank you. We're in good company with him.
Yes.
And then we also, during the pandemic, important things that people advise in the madness and the craziness of the pandemic, we also decided it was very important to invent our own cocktail. So we did invent a pandemic cocktail, and this is us making the pandemic cocktail out on the patio. We're going to make my go-to pandemic spicy tequila cocktail thing. And this is and so it's useful to have one of these to produce the lime juice. So I'm going to give you a pint glass. Look at this, by the way. Can I just say, Guinness, lime juice. Do you see that noise now? I hope that noise isn't a problem. Can you make the lime juice there for me, Phelim?
How do I make the lime juice now?
So I want you to cut that lime in half.
Like this?
And by the way,
cut it in
I
half
think
like that.
this, yeah, cut it in half like that. But I think
you're left
this
with 2 halves.
is like the most useful thing ever. I love this thing for squeezing limes.
What would you call that thing for people who are not can't
a lime
see it?
squeezing. A lime squeeze. By the way, it's called it's a citrus squeezer. It's a citrus squeezer. Really easy to say that.
Did you pick
by the
these
way.
limes from your own garden? Or?
I did not. These fabulous limes came, by the way. Look at these gorgeous limes. Hang on, people can't see these limes. These limes, beautiful limes, came from Costco.
Picked especially in Costco.
Costco. What I would do with this cocktail is, and I'm going to make this spicy. And how I'm going to make it spicy is I'm going to introduce a jalapeno. And what I do is I buy a whole bunch of jalapenos and I put them into the freezer for this very purpose. It was the summer then. Yeah, it's cold in the mornings here now.
Cold in the mornings, but it's still nice. We do realise, by the way, how lucky we've been. And I mean,
yes.
And you'll never hear many people say this, how lucky we are to live in California.
Yes.
Weather-wise, because we've had not as bad a pandemic as some people, not as bad a lockdown.
And also during the summer, because of the autonomous zones that were springing up all over the place. Once in Portland, once these riots started and the looting, and they had these autonomous zones where apparently they kind of, they colonized.
And the cops didn't go in
and
enforce the law. We were told that the beach was being closed on July the 4th. Here in Venice, here in all of California, I think it was.
Yes.
They just closed the beaches. And by the way, and the beaches were the least chance that you will ever pass on a virus to anyone. So we decided to create an autonomous zone on Venice Beach to bring people in, and I'll say, you can come here without fear of illegal action.
And people really enjoyed that, and Fox News got in touch with us, and you'll see the footage here with Phelim speaking on Fox News just before the president spoke at Mount Rushmore. Let's have a listen.
Joining me now is Phelim McAleer. He is an author, filmmaker, and organizer of this autonomous zone. Okay, Phelim, that beach behind you is closed. So what's the purpose of this zone you've created, and why are you willing to get arrested for it?
2 weeks ago, they were out encouraging everyone to go out on Black Lives Matter protests. They were standing in these protests with no masks, and now they tell us we can't go on the beach. This is hypocrisy. So I decided that the way to get around this is to declare this an autonomous zone, because that's cool now, because you're really cool. You're immune from COVID if you're in an autonomous zone. So I created this Independence Day autonomous zone so the people of Venice, the people of Los Angeles could enjoy the beach in safety.
That was fun.
Yes.
And actually, there was even a funner part to that, actually, if you want to look up that episode, because this is one of the things when we're having this short break from the Scoop and from the Daily Virus, you might want to go back over episodes that we had, because when Magda went to get the banner for the autonomous zone, she miraculously had this meeting with the banner maker, who turned out to be a guy called Casey Diaz, who wrote a book called The Shot Caller and who has the most amazing conversion experience. Really, really great guy. And then we had him on the show, so you should look for the Casey Diaz show. But that was, after all of that, we decided we would make a movie. We decided through the pandemic, you know what? There was new information had come out in relation to Strzok and Page and
Mueller and Comey and Brennan. So we took the original FBI Lovebirds and made it into the ObamaGate movie, because it was really proven, and it should really be the Biden-gate movie as well. This all started from a meeting with Obama and Biden when they decided to push the Russia hoax and bring down Flynn, bring down Trump. So we had Dean Cain, we had John James, we had Christy Swanson. John James was playing Jim Comey, fantastic, and we had John Brennan. I was co-written. The film was co-written by Brian Godawa, and it's been an amazing success. We've had almost 600,000 views now.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes, and also I think there's, I think we know from, I think there's some DVDs have been produced as well and given out to people.
Yes.
So I think about 1 million people will have seen it so far. So you can still see it by going to ObamaGateMovie.com.
Yeah, but we have to mention if it wasn't for Judicial Watch,
if it wasn't for Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch, we wouldn't have
had so many of the documents. I mean, they've been, our work in recent years is very much just wait for Judicial Watch to release documents and get stories, and we follow up on them and create works.
No, we had a really wonderful partnership with Judicial Watch.
They came on board.
And they came on board.
And I think we've been able to get it to so many people because of their support.
Let's have a look at a clip from that.
My wife has my phone.
We are now in a full-blown national security crisis.
Your wife just left me a voicemail. She thinks we're having an affair.
Michael Flynn investigation still open, whoopsie face.
President Obama wants to know everything we're doing.
What is our goal? Get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired.
Weasels and liars.
God, Trump is a loathsome human.
Tweet. 106.6 thousand likes.
Trump's not ever going to become president, right? Right?
No. No, he's not. We'll stop it.
So that was really loved it. It was fantastic. Yeah. So we talked earlier about the fact that we made mince pies over the weekend, and we think that you should make mince pies. And the thing that you need is this, and Magda has reminded me that just because I show something on the screen doesn't mean necessarily that people who are listening on radio can work out what it is. So this is mincemeat made by Cross and Blackwell, rum and brandy mincemeat, which is the filling for mince pies. And the reason they're called mince pies, I think somebody wrote and said that in the old days, they used to make them with suet, which is an animal fat. This stuff is delicious. I cannot tell you, this is basically our mince pie recipe. You're going to watch us making it now. So, we completely cheated all the way through this recipe. Every part of this is a cheat. A friend of mine was saying to me that I should be making my own mincemeat. No, thank you. Life is too short. You can buy it like this. Maybe next year, Philip. Maybe next year. So we bought this jar here. We also bought store-bought pastry. I'm going to admit it. Hands up, I did that. And we rolled it out. You'll see that. We rolled it out very thin and then cut it using and we had a bit of difficulty trying to work out what size glass to use to cut it out. We used glasses to make the little circles. You want a bigger circle and then a small circle for the top. And we put that into our muffin tray. We squashed them down. Before we did that, Phelim had been very careful to butter the muffin tray.
Yes, it's very important.
Very important to butter the muffin tray. And then we put the tops on. Then we put in, so we added, the one kind of little thing we did was we cut up a few apples, tiny, and added them to this mincemeat. Mm-hmm. And then we put that in, and then with a fork we pressed down the lids on the top so that they stuck together.
And then we knifed.
And then we also made a little hole in the top so that it had room to breathe.
Don't forget.
And don't forget to do that. And then we did an egg wash over the top, which was just one egg beaten up, and we put it on with a brush. And then we popped them in the oven for about 30 minutes, Phelim, at 350, I think. But keep an eye on them, because I always think everyone's oven works differently. And we then took them out of the oven. Don't eat them immediately.
Yeah, let them cool.
Let them cool a little bit.
Contract a little bit so that you can. And then we turned them over, and 99% of them came out. I think one
didn't. But that would be a failure of yours, Phelim, with the buttering.
Well, actually,
or you think it was because I was hooking at them, trying to get them out?
I think you were hooking at them.
Anyway, they came out, and they were really, really delicious. And I can't tell you, this is really worth doing. You should do this. And by the way, if there's somebody that you're going to visit over the holidays, over the Christmas, and you've forgotten to get them something, I think this is a great present, by the way.
Can I just say there was a huge debate in our household about whether the cream should be whipped or not.
In the end, Phelim always likes whipping cream, so the cream was whipped. Yum, 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 yum.
But,
and how many did you
some
have?
People say, I looked at
how many did you have in one sitting, Phelim?
3. I shouldn't have had the third one.
3.
Some people say you should pour the cream. It should be not whipped. I liked it whipped and sort of dolloped it, but it's up to your taste.
So you can dollop the cream and on a very hot mince pie. It's really, really delightful. In cat news, by the way, we're hoping to have the cats join us before the end of the podcast. You know that we let the cats...
If not, here's some pictures of them outdoors. Because we now have outdoor cats.
Yes, we introduced them to the outdoors. They really, really like the outdoors. These cats are called, what kind of cats are they, Phelim?
Tabby cats.
They're tabby cats. I think they're meant to be outdoors and they're so happy. And what they do is they go in the morning, they get out in the morning, and then in the evening, we just open the door. You look out the door and the heads are looking up. Not together, by the way, even though they're brothers. Yeah. Separately, and they're looking to come in.
You know, sometimes they come in even in about 10 or 11 o'clock for a bit of affection in the morning.
They do.
And then they go out again in the afternoon, and then they come back in the evening. Their names are Scaredy Cat and Top Cat.
That's right. It's not like we don't have enough photographs to show. Yes. So there's a variety of photographs. And by the time we do the shout outs, perhaps we'll have the cats come to join us. But also, by the way, last week we were in the White House. Yes. Again, we were there, which was really kind, for the celebration of Life is Winning, which was basically a celebration of the achievements of the Trump administration in the pro-life movement, which are considerable, by the way. And obviously the biggest, I suppose, it's hard to judge what's the most important thing, but I think the most important legacy will be the judicial appointments that are made up of people who love babies, basically, yes. Who are pro-baby, which, as our friend John Waters describes it, pro-baby, not pro-life, but pro-baby. And, you know, Vice President Pence spoke at our event, and we had lots of other people speaking, but I actually was very impressed by Kayleigh McEnany's speech, and she talked about her baby, Blake, who is 1 year old now, and she said that she realised she was pregnant during the Trump campaign, but she kept on travelling around or whatever, and she then talked about when President Trump became the president, and he asked her to join the team as the press secretary, whatever they call it, the press secretary. Yes. So Kayleigh McEnany spoke about her baby Blake. And about the fact that when the president offered her the job of press secretary, that he said, "Well, how will your baby be? How will your daughter be about this? And that he was really concerned about that, and that actually it kind of told you all you needed to know about his priorities, because she's not the only mother of a baby within his administration, but she was really, really, really.
She was one of the best speakers there. Actually.
Yeah, I thought so. She really spoke from the heart. She talked about looking at the 3D scan of the baby and the initial scans, and
yes.
She just talked
said
about
she'd
how
always
beautiful.
been pro-life, but that really made her brought it home to the. She had this pro-life philosophy, but this made it a practical pro-life.
And she told one little story, and maybe we'll listen to this one little story she told about when she was offered the job to be press secretary, and she was trying to work out what to do, and she was holding the baby at the same time. Let's just hear that.
And I'll never forget, after I got the title of press secretary holding Blake, and I started to cry because I was like, I'm going to miss my little baby, and my tears started to fall on her face, and all of a sudden, she let out, I swear it was her first smile. And it was God's way of saying, you go do what you need to do. And I'll tell you what this president did when he first offered me the job. He said this, is your daughter going to be okay? Because he is a president that supports moms. He's a president that supports life. And there's been no greater partner for him in that endeavor than Vice President Pence, who's been an unmistakable voice for life from the very beginning.
So that is Kayleigh McEnany. Yes. Really love her. So before we come to our guest, we have a little bit of viewing advice, a little viewing and listening advice. 2 things. So, and I think this is, kind of sad, but also maybe happy. So the Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols that has been performed by King's College Choir in Cambridge forever, basically. For the first time in a century, it won't be done with people in the church, with the choir. It'll be done without them. However, it will be performed for BBC Radio 4, and people all over the world can listen to that at BBC Radio 4 at 3 p.m. GMT, at 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time on Christmas Eve, and it's really a beautiful thing. And one of the things I was going to say about it that I think was amazing was, so for 100 years they've done this, and the first hymn that they do is Once in a Royal David City.
Once in Royal David City stood all holy cattle shed. He came out forth from heaven.
And what's extraordinary about that is at the beginning of that carol, very beautiful carol, at the very, very beginning of it, there's a soloist. One of these boys, of these little boy singers, sings that as a solo. And the tradition that the cruel and unnatural punishment of these boys that they have decided to do, and they have always done, the tradition is that none of the boys know which one is going to be the soloist until right before, like literally when they're ready to record, when they're ready to start singing it, the conductor points to a boy and said, "It's you."
You're the soloist.
And you know what? I think the clever thing about that is each boy is trying all the time to be brilliant so that he'll be ready to be the soloist. But you talk about, imagine those boys the night before, they probably don't sleep. But I would recommend that as a beautiful thing. The other beautiful thing that I'd recommend actually is our, and this is poignant for us as well. Do you want to talk about this film?
Well, it's a play, or a Zoom play, that from the Pacific Residence Theatre, starring
here in Venice.
Ali
Mills Bean.
Who's unfortunately the widow now of
our dear friend Orson.
Orson died in March, I think it was February.
No, he died when we were in New York.
Yeah, just when we were in New York, and in a car accident, he's hit by a car
on his way to go and see his darling love Ali in a play at the Pacific Residence Theatre.
He was 95, and let me tell you, don't think that man's life was over. I think he was ready for a fourth act or a fifth act.
So what they've done with the Pacific Residence Theatre is they've done a piece called A Christmas Memory, and it's a piece written by Truman Capote, and it's really, really beautiful. It's a very powerful thing. It's largely an autobiographical piece by Truman Capote about a particular moment in his life. So apparently he had awful parents, by the way, like just the worst. And basically this piece called Christmas Memory is a two-hander with Ali Mills Bean and Michael Toulon playing the other role. And the role is it's a man playing a 7-year-old. And it's a moment in time set in the 1930s, and it describes the period in the lives of the 7-year-old narrator, Truman Capote, and an elderly woman who is his distant cousin and his best friend. The woman was Nanny Falk. We're going to put up a picture of her, actually, because they showed the picture at the play. The woman was Nanny Falk, the elder sister of the household, where Capote's wayward parents deposited him as a young boy. I'm just taking this from Wikipedia, by the way. Nanny, whom everyone called Sook, was thought to be developmentally disabled. But Capote later wrote to a friend, "I had an elderly cousin, the woman in my story, A Christmas Memory, who was a genius." And that role is played by Ali Mills Bean. And it's really affecting. It's really, really beautiful. And you can watch it for free on YouTube if you go to the Pacific Residence Theatre on YouTube and look for A Christmas Memory. I'd highly recommend it. And please, would you leave a comment for Ali Mills Bean there and for Michael Toulon, the performers. It's really beautifully done, and Ali would really appreciate it. And not enough people have watched so far. It's available from this week, basically, and it'll be available through January. But watch as soon as you can.
It's an amazing performance.
It's an amazing performance.
It's actually short as well. It's not that long. It's
really beautiful.
It'll make your Christmas.
It really is. It's gorgeous. So, Phelim, we're coming to the end of the show.
Yes.
I think one of the things that we want to do right now, though, is to remind people of this extraordinary, this massive project that we're going to be doing next year that you can really help with right now. So our project, it's going to be as big, if not bigger, than Gosnell. We're taking on the Biden family, the Hunter Biden family syndicate,
you know, the
China, the Ukrainian, all of that stuff. We're going to do a massive project on that. Because this is so big, we've actually had a donor already come forward and offer to do matching funding of $25,000. So anything that you send in now, and that, by the way, expires at the end of the year. So we need this before the end of the year. You need to respond to this right now with $50, $100. Everything you give will be doubled. Everything you give is tax deductible. And it's really important that this information gets out there. We know, for example, they've done polling that if people had known the Hunter Biden story prior to the election, it would have affected the election and would have pushed it over the edge.
The media are covering this up, so that's where we come in to expose it, the Unreported Story Society. So go there, unreportedstorysociety.com, unreportedstorysociety.com/donate. All the donations are tax deductibles. And now, talking of helping our projects, so many people gave so
and we just want to say
to ObamaGate.
Yeah,
and
but before that, I wanted to just say, we wanted to say a happy Christmas to everyone that's out there and everyone, whatever situation you're in. It's a very hard time for a lot of people who didn't get to travel, who didn't get to meet family members and all of that. So we are very conscious of that, or conscious of it ourselves. People are not, and however bad it was about a week ago, it just got worse with this new news from the UK with the mutation of the COVID, which they're, of course, they're not going to do anything but exaggerate the worst and make it impossible for people to do anything. So the lockdowns are back in operation basically everywhere. So we are thinking of you and wishing you the very, very best. And we're so grateful to people. And this is kind of the reason we're warming up to this next bit, which is where we're thanking people. We're still thanking people. Weeks and weeks after ObamaGate came out, so many people helped us that we said we'd do shout outs to all the people who did. And we're going to do that right now and get to mispronounce your name and the place that you live in. But thank you, and thank you so much for so much support. But we're going to do the shout-outs right now.
Robert Goshen, New York. Ann Snow, Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Suzanne from Savannah, Texas. Daryl from Oma, Tyrone. Risa from Brampton, Ontario. Karen from Atlanta, Georgia. Megan from Westford, Massachusetts. Heather from Traverse City.
Traverse City, Michigan. Oh, Traverse City, Michigan. Yeah,
Yes.
we've been there.
Ron from Cochrane, Alberta.
Alberta, Canada, Phelim. Henry from Miami, Florida. Aaron from Rogersville, Missouri. Norbert from Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. Summy from Irvine, Texas. Sandra from Calgary, Alberta. John from Bloomfield, Ontario. Sally from Livermore, California. Clay, I think I know who that is, from Southside, Alabama. Gary from Etobicoke. Becoke, Ontario. I think that
never heard of it.
Amy from Houston, Texas. Cheryl from Fargo, North Dakota. Big shout out to North Dakota there. Richard from Fairfax, Virginia. Linda from Knoxville, Tennessee. David from, there you go, Phelim. David from Kingwood, Texas.
And Mary from Canby, Indiana. Linda from Knoxville, Tennessee. Wayne from Clarksville, Tennessee. Robert from Kelowna, British Columbia. Strange names up there in
Deborah
Canada.
from Wichita, Kansas. Maria from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Richard from St. John, Indiana. Robert from Dallas, Texas. Finette from Mendon, Utah. James from Burbank, California. Timothy from Cincinnati, Ohio. Cheryl from Fargo, North Dakota.
And Mam from Rybrook, New York. Peggy from Scottsdale, Arizona. Robert from Redondo Beach, California. Richard from Jewett City, Connecticut.
Mark from Fresno, California. Stephen from Arlington,
Massachusetts. Thomas from Captain Cook, Hawaii. Mike from Houston, Texas. That's a funny place, Captain Cook, Hawaii. Greg from Orlando, Florida. Robert from New York. Roland from Overland Park, Kansas. James from Chino, California. Andre and Mona from Chatsworth.
Oh, Andre and Mona, thank you. We know those guys.
Chatsworth, California. Joseph from Elyria, Ohio. Arlene from Rohnert Park, California.
Thank you, Arlene. We know who you are.
Terry from Bettendorf, Iowa. William from Fayetteville, Arkansas. Luke from Dickinson, North Dakota. David from Round Rock, Texas. Hamish from Vermont, South Victoria. And then Tess from Buffalo, New York. Bonnie from Grandview, Texas. Marilyn from Pueblo Rest, Colorado. Catherine from Cincinnati, Ohio. Lauren from Fort Wayne, Indiana. David from Kingwood, Texas. Janine from Freehold, New Jersey.
Richard from Cheyenne, Wyoming. Chris from Phoenix, Arizona. Judith from Stamford, Connecticut. Stephen from Irvine, California. Stephen from Newtown, Alabama. I think it is. John from Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. Steve from San Antonio, Texas. Deborah from Toronto, Ontario. Lisa from Hollister, California. Mary from Severna Park, Maryland.
Thomas from Las Vegas, Nevada. Ryan from Costa Mesa, California. Michael from Albany, New York. Andreas from Campbell Hall, New York. Sarah from Fond du Lac.
Fond du Lac, Wyoming, is it? Or no, WI, Wisconsin, sorry. Risa from Milford, Ohio. Steve from Centerville, Virginia. Karen from Salem, which is in Oregon. Yvonne from Bourne, Texas. William from Tucson, Arizona. Paul from Kirkland, Washington. Norma from
Chanhassen, Minnesota. Dave from El Paso, Texas. Andrew from Sandy, Oregon. Monique from Oakwood Village, Ohio. Richard from the Villages in Florida. Linda from Castaic, California. James from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Quintana from Atascadero, California. Gordon from Ottawa, Ontario. Patricia from Belfast, Maine.
Belfast, Maine.
Matthew from Great Neck, New York. Jeremiah from Parker, Colorado. Jeffrey from Honesdale, Pennsylvania. Michael from Cedar Park, Texas. Jeff from Minnetonka, Minnesota. Jeffrey from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Renate from Powder Springs, Georgia, and Sean from Gosport, Indiana.
That's it for now. And we'll do the rest of them the next.
Yeah, and
actually, you know what? We could nearly finish today.
Yes.
I think we'll finish today. We got Brian from Ellicott City, Maryland. Alice from Belton, Texas. Holly from Highlands, North Carolina. James from Bryan, Texas. Richard
from Simi Valley, California. Sherry from Pensacola, Florida. Robert from Abbeville, Louisiana. Marion from Phoenix, Arizona. Rick from Long Beach, California. Jeff from Tranmere, TAS. What's TAS?
We don't know what TAS is.
Okay, please write in the comments section.
Do you know where I think it is? I think it's Tasmania.
Wow.
I think it might be Tasmania.
Okay, write into the comments of YouTube.
It is from Tasmania. A shout out to you, by the way. I've been to Tasmania.
So have I.
Oh yeah, we've been together in Tasmania, actually. Yes. There you go.
Oh, you thought you were with some other young man. Or maybe you were with some other, you were in Australia for 2 years.
That's true, but I don't think I was.
Did you go to Tasmania with a young man then?
God be with the days.
She's rather quiet, actually.
God be with the days. John from...
Do you see what you've started, Jeff?
Auburndale. From Auburndale, okay.
Wisconsin.
Rennie from Dallas, Texas. Virginia from Fairfax Station, Virginia. Linda from Fort Worth, Texas. Bridget from Tustin, California.
Christine from San Gabriel, California. Mindy from San Antonio, Texas.
Randall from Tucson, Arizona. Thomas from Mertztown, Pennsylvania.
Richard from
Irvine, California.
Diane from Albany, New York. Ned from Yonkers, New York. Miriam from Topeka, Kansas. Frederick from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Young from Mill Creek, Washington.
Melissa from Savannah, Georgia. And I know that, Melissa. Hello, Melissa. I know you. Paul from San Jose, California. Paul from Palatine, Illinois. Stephanie from Cedar Park, Texas. John from Blauvelt, New York. And Judy from Enon Valley, Pennsylvania. That is 573 people, by the way, in that list that we have basically been shouting out to.
Most of them strangers.
And by the way, we have more people than that helped us out. They're just the people who gave us more than $50, and we are so grateful to you guys. That's a lot of people from a lot of places who care about the truth and care about unreported stories.
And like we can see from the comments, people are so happy with the ObamaGate movie. It was a pleasure making it, and thank you for watching.
ObamaGateMovie.com. Happy Christmas. Happy and healthy season of goodwill, I hope.
Yes.
And please God, 2021 will be a prosperous and happy time for you and for yours.
And a healthy time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.